My mom and sister spent a lot of time trying to mend fences with my ex. I became pregnant after marrying someone else. I went on my first date when I was 16 years old with my brother's best buddy. I turned down his proposal when I finished high school. There was tension since my family wanted us to have a long engagement or get back together, so they pushed me to reconsider. Despite the pressure on my connection with my 36-year-old brother, my 32-year-old sister never fully healed. After she started seeing my ex-brother, she became intolerable in her insistence that he was ideal for me. I kept quiet because my ex-boyfriend was considered a family friend by my siblings, who invited him to every family gathering, right up till my sister pleaded with me to make up. On vacations, my sister made us share a room and tried blind dates. For whatever reason, my ex-boyfriend was invited. I begged my folks to step in when I had had enough. They stopped letting my ex-boyfriend tag along or invite him to events, and they were honest with my siblings. My brother backed down, but my sister didn't, therefore she was significantly better. Everything came crashing down when I met my spouse while studying abroad for a semester. We hit it off. Because he was from a different school in the same nation. The engagement was a wonderful culmination to our year-long courtship. No one in my family was more ecstatic than my sister. I was just in the honeymoon phase. She assured me I'd get over it. I warned my ex that we would no longer communicate after several arguments and failed attempts at reconciliation. What does she do after receiving the warning? She selects a friend of hers to be my husband's date and demands that I devote all my time to the wedding party, which includes my ex. Until the reception, when the unfortunate girl sought to speak with my husband, none of us noticed. Since we are not married, my sister said we could go on adventures with other people. I abruptly left the party and informed my brother and parents the following day that I will not be able to force them to choose, but that I would not speak to my sister again and will cut all connections with them if they attempt to mend our relationship. Mom was distressed and offered to negotiate. I haven't had any communication with my sister in 6 years, with the exception of 2 attempts by my parents. I had assurances from my parents and brother that they would honor my choice. To make amends with me, sis has exhausted all possible avenues, things like temper tantrums and gifts, but I still avoid her. When we're all together for dinner or an event, I act as if she doesn't exist. She began with hostile remarks or drama, but she soon realized that no one would back her, so she stopped trying. When I asked her to my wedding but left her out of the planning, she broke down in tears. My brother's relationship with my ex-girlfriend has deteriorated since then, and he feels terrible about enduring it for so long. Not as close, but they still talk. I broke the news that we were expecting our first granddaughter, not grandchild, a few weeks ago on my mom's birthday. My sister was the only one who wasn't thrilled. I was just invited to tea by my mom after she saw me. Even if my gut warned me not to, I forced myself to remain hopeful. Upon entering, I noticed my sister's car and her husband following shortly after. Lunch with my ex. My parents felt the need to intervene because my immature behavior has continued. Even though he was romantic, my ex-boyfriend knew I didn't like it. His mother said I should forgive my sister since I hurt her while she was trying to do what was best for me. My sister then apologized. I stared at my mom in shock while messaging my spouse, brother, dad, and relatives. It took my Bill to dare to tell me I'm a horrible person and that I should behave like an adult now that I'm a mother. Anguish about her daughter's estrangement was expressed in a letter mom received. The fact that my sister was mistaken but meant well, etc. Reading her letter brought tears to my sister's eyes and gave me a different version of events. I remained motionless until my sibling came. He was the most visibly furious I've ever seen him. He took my possessions and expressed his disappointment and disgust. As my dad and husband arrived, he continued to apologize while we waited in his car outside. There was a lot of crying on my part. I sent everyone but mom there, but nobody knows what occurred. Include my lawyer's phone number in the email stating that I do not wish to be contacted further and will notify the authorities if they do contact me again. My dad says my mom and sister are going crazy and want to make things right, and that my sister even wants to be my baby's godmother, but no one has been in touch with me. While some people don't agree with me, my brother is living with my dad. My sister now thinks my husband is trying to keep me away from my family, therefore she has been calling me worried about me and wanting to know what happened. I hate doing business in public, but I still went ahead and detailed everything that happened in a long Facebook post. The dragging of sister, Bill, and ex is fair, in my opinion. I feel terrible about my mom's inconsolability, but it's not as bad as her little intervention. Therapy, family therapy, clear boundaries, no sharing of personal information with my sister, and separate holidays are all part of the limits that I agreed to set a few days ago when we had our conversation. Recurring in this manner will result in her being severed. She will do it, even though it's too much. I had to remind her that it's a process, and that she needs to grow up. She thought she could just get the pregnancy news and be done with it. Even though they apologized for not stopping sooner, my brother and dad still won't speak to my sister. They matured and progressed, so we let them go. Even though my husband agrees with me, my mom is worried that cutting off her contact with her granddaughter is the wrong thing to do. But she insists that I make the final decision. I am at a loss as to how to deal with my mom. Where did Oppie get their reasoning from? Commenter. You should just quit acting like a princess with your husband, now that you're expecting a child, and accept that your happily ever after lies with your ex, right? Is that your child? Is your ex family going to welcome her back? Oops. My sister claims she has had enough of attempting to unite us, but being her aunt is too much for me to bear. Because I am close to my beautiful sisters, she accuses me of being a horrible sister. She has my distrust. I have a problem with my mom. Would she still be able to be your best friend if you didn't date her? Oh no. If only I could explain her thought process to you. Her mental illness is what my spouse believes. The most absurd and terrifying aspect is that my ex-boyfriend possesses the CDs and mixtapes I created during our relationship. He still has those, even though they're 20 years old. Be honest with her. You have my disbelief at the persistence of your brother's ex-stalker. Maintain your stance with mom. No due dates. Rules compliance is something she needs to show. The sister ought to take responsibility for her deeds. To give my brother the benefit of the doubt, he did ignore me when I expressed my discomfort with my ex-family member being present. Over the summers and winter holidays from college, I spent time with my family. In addition, he made an effort to welcome my spouse, which caused friction between him and my ex-husband, because my ex-husband felt deceived by my brother. My spouse is now very close to my brother, and will only talk to my ex-wife about our nephew, or when it's appropriate, never out of contempt. You should know that your mom is on board with this, so feel free to comment on her. My mom has always been supportive of my husband, but now that I'm reevaluating their relationship, it pains me that Big Sis is dragging her feet since she knows your mom shares her opinion that it's out of the ordinary. Neither India nor religion are associated with OOP. Although my parents initially thought it was romantic, they later came to realize it wasn't. They were kind. They did more than just persuade me to enroll in college. My mom could have gone along with my sister's views and played along, but now I know my dad was on my side. We were supposed to be best friends married to brothers, according to Sis. Second update 16 hours later. Your help and advice regarding the edit I was unable to publish is much appreciated. I will give some information since there are too many comments to respond to individually. I ended things with my ex when we were both 18 years old. The man is 37 years old. I refused to get engaged or married, so we broke up. The reason my sister is so certain is that she wants us to be best friends and married as brothers. My mom has always been nice to my husband, but I suspect she was being dishonest. This makes me unhappy. My ex-boyfriend has been seeing someone else since we hooked up. Not only is he single, but he also has 2 children from a prior relationship. When I tell her that he has only ever wanted to marry me, she finds it romantic. I need to talk to him about his obsessions with other people. To be a good aunt, my sister needs him to help her get back in my good graces, so she's urging him to concentrate on me. Word on the street was that he looked just like the moms of his children. I told my parents I didn't feel comfortable being around my ex, and my brother promptly cut me off. Over the summers and winter holidays from college, I spent time with my family. In addition, he made an effort to welcome my spouse, which caused friction between him and my ex-husband, because my ex-husband felt deceived by my brother. Even though he is now close friends with my brother, my husband will only talk to my ex-husband about our nephew, my sister's son, or in an effort to avoid being rude. My dad was the only one who appeared to agree that I shouldn't spend too much time with my ex. Even though my mom had planned to make me my favorite tea and cookies for our tea party, he was unable to stay and enjoy the company of my beloved. Because he thought it would be great for me, he is enraged that my dad went out with my uncle. When my husband and sister first met, they worked really well together. Now, though, he treats her like a crazy person and ignores her. She may or may not be. Nothing justifies her actions, though. As per their official statement, they extended an invitation to the ex-parents and his sister to assist me in resolving our differences. Not religious, not Indian. My husband and I are in a race together. My ex-husband and I do not have a financial disparity. My husband would benefit if that were the case. To conclude, my SILs. Both my brothers and my husband's sisters are absolutely fuming. Her remark will be brought up in a conversation between my husband and sister's mother. Maybe my mom will permanently relocate my brother and his wife to North Carolina. It will be some time before she sees my nephews. The more I read, the more I'm considering taking my kid to North Carolina with my mom. Her making me cry and question my goodness has my husband even more enraged than his dismay at the fact that their entire conversation was manufactured. My family and I had many more conversations about my mother. An order of protection against my sister and ex-boyfriend will be obtained. I tried to have a conversation with my mom about it, but she insisted that she was correct, that I am an awful person, and that she will get custody or grandparents' rights. I don't care what she says, but I'm freaking out. So we wrote her a note. My dad left after telling her he couldn't stand for her tormenting his child. North Carolina was my brother and his wife's choice. It came as a surprise, but I think I underrated the depth of my despair following the intervention. After that, my husband drilled into their heads the importance of being considerate and sensitive to everyone and everything, as well as the dangers of raising a child in an unhealthy home. I love my husband for 3,271,637 reasons. My mom's insincerity has affected my hubby, who now says she will never receive anything from him. This is the limit of vengeance. Since many of you seem to think she is a wonderful mother from a caring family, my husband and sisters took the time to explain to my mill why her remark was inappropriate. My brother and dad keep apologizing for what they did. My dad still doesn't believe it happened and thinks it's strange. I can always count on their unwavering support and promise to lend a hand in the fight against my mom or Cider's foolish quarrel. Version 2, December 17, 2021. Your encouraging words and thoughtful letters mean a lot to me, so it wouldn't get deleted like the original. I put it here. Sitting down with my nephews, my brother and his wife informed them that Grandma was sick and threatened to hurt Annie Diamond and our little cousin. Grandma loves them even if she can't be there for them anymore. The kids are so smart, but it was so hard. Also, they found out that their other aunt is no longer with them. But it doesn't matter to them because they hate her, and it's not even because of me she's terrible with them. Upon receiving the notification, my mom completely lost it and insisted she would visit her grandchildren and exercise her rights. Until January, my dad will remain with us while he searches for a permanent residence. Mainly due to the fact that there was room and my brother's mill was visiting. He has contacted divorce attorneys, relocated bank records, etc. and is depressed. He consistently ignores my mom's numerous attempts to contact him by phone, email, and text. He should not block her at this time, the lawyer told him. I felt my blood pressure rise when she visited my house a few days following my last post, accompanied by my sister, even though he considered forgiving her. Since my mom was aware that I didn't want my sister to visit, I suppose it makes no difference that she never did. Because I haven't had a chance to warn the cleaning lady that my mom cannot come in, she let them in anyhow. Running errands brought my attention to the car. But I refrained from getting in. My closest relative, my husband's sister, confronted the intruders after I had contacted every member of my family and threatened to report them for trespassing unless they left. I went to the doctor after they left because I was sick. The doctor warned that the baby would be hurt by my overexcitation, so I should get some sleep. My dad brought home everything he could think of with my brother, uncle, and husband. According to my husband, my sister was present and shouted accusations that he had ruined her family. They nearly killed the child, my dad told my mom and sister, and now they won't speak to them. Nothing changed despite my sister's repeated requests for my brother's assistance. It breaks my heart to see my nephew losing so many family members because of his mother's crazy ideas. My attorney sent a letter to my mom threatening legal action because she is overly possessive of grandparent rights and custody of our child, claiming that her actions have negatively impacted my health and the well-being of our child. My brother's letter also contained details about her mistreatment of me. My sister and mom are against therapy. Even if they are mentally sick, their long-term agreement demonstrates this. I prioritize taking care of my health, spending time with my family around the holidays, and attending to my treatment. Revised version 3, March 30th, 2022. Since I was free and needed to make a few changes, I figured it would be a good match. I am truly grateful for all of your feedback, notes, and well wishes. I believe we owe you for being more paranoid, so I want all of your advice. When people started asking how we were able to conceive at 20 weeks, I told them the gender. We wanted to be careful and sure when we revealed it because we experienced a miscarriage before, so we waited. We also naively believed it would hold some significance for my mom. I told my husband about it, and he spent days poring over your messages, comments, and recommendations. We were scared and checked into a motel with my dad after robbing the house and finding nothing. However, we discovered that my furry friend's vest contained a tracker. The little puppy is so cold that he wears a waistcoat with a funny design. My dad showed him about the hotel as my sister questioned him about reconciliation and me as a result. We found the tracker, which is somewhere I would never have looked. My anger led us to relocate. Lucky for us, we have the budget for it. No, it's not empty, we have tenants. Though I once liked that house, I now feel desecrated and dirty because of it. Not only does my childhood home feel the same, but so does my parents. Everyone in my family, my brother, husband, dad, SIL, and my husband's side of the family got new phones, upgraded our equipment, and told our bosses, friends, and the police. Both individual and family therapy have begun. Even though I've forgiven my dad and brother, they still feel bad. Thankfully, we're getting over it. They don't need therapy, according to my mom and sister. My dad has finally ended his involvement with my sister. His new will leaves a small sum to her son in the form of a trust fund, an inheritance, while leaving her very little. My heart broke for her, but I couldn't take my eyes off my baby. We are blessed by her presence. Given that my mom is no longer with us, the unexpected generosity of many friends and relatives has come as a shock to us. At last, we informed people. We weren't sure about my impending labor since we were so paranoid. We successfully identified and eliminated the source of the material that was being shared with my mom and sister. The rest were informed of the explanation by us. Bates, my ex-husband, said the child was his since we've been battling about my feelings for him. No one believes my husband anymore, but he still informed Bates' job about the insanity. His suspension was due to an internal review, to cut a long tale short. I believe he will be fired since they are so insincere and constantly wanting more details. Everyone who knew where we were headed to North Carolina, so my mom couldn't find us. Because of her instability, all correspondence will now be handled by lawyers, according to my dad's lawyer. I felt bad for my dad when he was alone, so I started dating him. I feel awful, even though he says it's not my fault. When it came to feeding, changing diapers, and babysitting, he was unrivaled. Even after meeting my sister's son, my nephews continue to love my dad. My dad emailed her about seeing her kid and threatened to call the police after she threatened to harm herself in multiple recordings if my husband continued to alienate her family. That ended it. I gave Bates false hope. They finally informed him. It goes against what is true. I was uneasy for a long time, thinking he would eventually move on. Following my outspokenness in marriage, I engaged in a protracted battle with my sister. Due to my lengthy engagement, I wed after my sister. Both my mom and sister mean the world to me. Love isn't as important to me as having a healthy family. Because of this experience, I am more loyal, loving, and compassionate than before. Despite how strange it seems, I'm relieved that it exploded. Minimal rambling is required. Give me a big hug. Revision 4, June 25, 2022. Upon our arrival, my dad made himself at home at the guest house. Although he should be around us, we all require our space, as we came to the conclusion after many conversations in and out of treatment. Until then, we will continue to rent the previous location. 3 times a week, Dad takes care of the grandkids. Although it's understandable that my sister would be wary of letting him take her child until she knew his address, we prefer not to have her around because she's insane. It is unfair, my mom informed the attorneys. My dad will see all of his grandchildren regardless of what she does. My father's confession a month ago tore at my gut, because he covers the costs of her nephew's education and daycare. My nephew's sister allows him to visit her. He didn't want secrets and regretted keeping it hidden. No need to be worried, I reassured him. On Mother's Day, my dad got an email that linked to an Instagram account. On the account, they made a horrible film criticizing my mom, saying that most of her family has left her, and that my sister is a saint for sticking by her side. Despite how upsetting and frustrating it was, I forwarded it to the attorney. The divorce that Dad started in May is far from over. Even though my mom thinks he's wrong, I guess it's clear since my dad said he'd rather drink bleach than get back together with her. We had a wonderful Father's Day celebration with my dad, my brother, and my husband. We wanted my dad to appreciate all that my sister uploaded that day, but they prohibited him from knowing. Also, they took the kids camping. They stayed in a hotel suite and set up a tent in the middle, complete with a tippy for the infant. Having a child and witnessing my husband fulfill his role as a wonderful father fills me with joy. It is truly one of the best things that has ever happened to me. Despite the weariness, I am grateful for my rocks and the support they provide. Together with my SILs, I have created a program of age-appropriate activities that any child may participate in to help them learn that they are free to choose their friends and that their opinions matter. Because they are very smitten with the baby and think they are her guardians, we often have brunches and get-togethers. Without my sibling, family time is now enjoyable. She diminishes optimism, even though I know it's awful. My mom enjoys spending 1 night a week in the guest room with the baby. Please don't bring the baby to any sleepovers or anything, she politely asked. Even though I periodically weep because I miss my mom. She respects and listens to me. My heart goes out to the mother I imagined I had, not to the one who forewarned me that I would be an awful parent. I should be optimistic, my therapist adds, because it's a marathon. Positive things aside, Bates lost his job and his reputation in the industry took a nuclear hit. Since Bill does not work in a field that places the same importance on reputation as his siblings, I think he is able to keep his job. In a 12-page, double-sided, single-spaced letter, Bates expressed his profound sadness and explained that my husband felt compelled to ruin him professionally due to his intimidating presence, as he was unable to demolish anything else. It seems like my lawyer reviewed it and provided me with a synopsis. According to what I heard through the grapevine, he pretended it was for the best when his children's mother moved. People just tell me things because they know he's after me, so I don't bother asking questions. Instead of being a good father, this man wants to be a family snitch with me and the baby. Now that Mama allowed him back in, I seriously doubt he'll pick up any lessons. Nothing fancy, just an update. With my dad's okay, my spouse destroyed or threw away all of the possessions that belonged to my parents. Life is too short, even though he recalls her. Commenter, I'm relieved that you were able to hold on to the good things about your family. Furloughs are a mystery to me. I am aware of Bates' terrible character, but has he ever demonstrated any competence in his line of work? The industry is really tight-knit, and if you have a poor reputation, you will sink. He had previously been a nice, emotionally distant feminist single parent. Even though we weren't really together for that long, he lied to my coworkers and said I was. At 1:30 in the morning in India, I read your entire essay on Reddit and want to express my admiration and apologies for what you've been through. Please comment. I hope your child grows up to be as healthy and kind as you are, so that you might be reunited with your mother when her previous fantasy comes. And to an end, I truly hope this calamity ends soon. Beautifully expressed, you have my respect, do not give up. I will never speak to my mom again. Love her very much. Sobs escape me frequently. She's not who I imagined her to be, and the child should have the finest family possible, not my mother. My soul bleeds. But I must shield the infant. May 30th, 2024, new revision. Hey there, it's been a while. Let me start by saying how much I appreciate all of your feedback and correspondence. Then I will get to the updates. The majority of the content that appears whenever I log into this account is positive, which I quite enjoy. I highly doubt anyone will bother to read this, but the updates are often good. Once that is done, we can start. My parents divorced due to my mother's explosive behavior and a series of arguments. Nothing was given to her except the house and the large sum. Both my dad and I are overjoyed by the change. Despite the uproar, we were able to retain our cleaning lady. I was afraid that this woman, who had assisted my husband's family for many years, might lose her employment as a result of my untamed family. We don't slop, and she doesn't go down on her knees to mop the floor. Whatever the case may be, my dad informed her that she was not fired but rather may remain on paid leave till we relocated. Her loved ones were overjoyed. Their gratitude for my dad's efforts led them to begin providing him with food and other necessities. I see. My dad is seeing her sister, who runs a nail salon. The dynamics are clear to her because she is kind and has grown children. Because she values her autonomy, she is pleased that he has been forthright about not relocating or getting married. My mother, who I don't speak to, stated he became a sugar daddy as a result of a late-stage midlife crisis, and that she almost had a stroke upon learning about his new relationship. This is what I've heard. From what I understand, she is struggling. She has it bad, because she relied on my dad to keep her from overspending and never made a budget. With my dad's financial support cut off, my sister is in a tough spot. Despite the growing difficulty, he persisted in assisting my nephew. According to my nephew, my child is fair. She's describing my nephews as deluded, and she's not even with her own father. While claiming that no one else at the birthday celebration was related to my children, he also forced one of my nephews to sit with my husband. The children quickly informed an adult of their confusion. As my dad spoke to him, he kept repeating himself. You can't stop a child from telling the truth, my sister reminded him, adding, and don't all kids tell the truth. Until things change, he told her, he's going to cut them off. My nephew goes to public school since my husband made my dad cut ties with her, despite her panic and tears. Bates is still not working. I know I was nebulous, but Guy stalked helpless women for a living. Irony? For that, he was let go. This was something his company was keen to keep under wraps. Since he knows only my lawyer's address, you can guess who gets to read and file his two further lengthy, rambling letters that he sent me. I adore my champion attorney. I have had just one negative encounter with him, aside from the banter. A total stranger at the supermarket asked if my kid was Bates, and I was taken aback. When I questioned her about her whereabouts, she insisted that a photo of the two of us was on his profile, and that I need to feel ashamed for offending such a decent man. Despite my love for him, he insists that my child is his. The photo comment shocked me, even if everything else was old news. This picture was only shared with a select few relatives, and is now off limits. I informed my husband right away, and he was angry but collected. We decided to smoke out the rat. The sisters of my dad informed my mom, to cut a long tale short. Even though the kids were nagging him to continue talking, my dad was disappointed but unconcerned about ending the conversation. Everything is fine with my brother and his family since we last checked in. Family vacations and frequent visits are common occurrences. But together with my mom and sister, they're staying in North Carolina. Even though she didn't like our mom, my sister managed to keep the peace, so she's ecstatic. My in-laws are still stunning. Mill is overjoyed to have access to after-school care. When all of her grandkids are present, she enjoys their company very much. They enjoy playing airplane since she used to be a flight attendant. No need to worry. They adore her and recognize that she is content on her own. She had to hide her social media accounts because my mom was tracking her. She made her own bed, therefore she must be envious. Last but not least, my husband protects me from going crazy. The decision to have another child or choose adoption remains uncertain. We're fortunate to have such great conversations and support. Do miss my mom. It breaks my heart to know that I won't be able to celebrate life's achievements with her, but protecting my family from her is my top priority. Last but not least, on Father's Day they went camping, which, despite the sunburns and bug bites, was a beautiful experience.